Hi there, my name is Nathan Masters and I'm the founder of Slingshot. And today I want to get you up and running with your Slingshot so that you have success early and often. So we're calling this one Slingshots 101. There's just a couple of fundamentals that you really have to lock in. So maybe you've gotten your Slingshot and you're just taking it out of the package. Maybe you're anxiously awaiting the postman. Either way, pay attention to these few things. So we're going to go over some things like how to grip the Slingshot. How do you stand in orientation to your target? How do you know how to tune your bands? Which way do I put them on? How do I aim my Slingshot? And most importantly, how do I hit that stinking target? We're gonna get you there. So stay tuned for Slingshots 101. Take the time to read everything that came with your Slingshot and definitely watch this video. All right, folks, know you're ready to get up and running with your Slingshot, but a couple of things first. Safety. Safety is paramount. So we're gonna have Dan here definitely put on some safety glasses. This is a shooting sport. You wanna treat a Slingshot just like a firearm. You wanna know what your target is, what is behind that target, and you don't wanna shoot at anything that you're not willing to destroy. Safety first. Always wear your safety glasses. All right, next up, we've got to figure out which hand we want to hold the Slingshot in. We do this according to our eye dominance. If you know your eye dominance, great. If you don't, here's a quick tip. So Dan, I want you to pick something out in the distance, make a small circle with your hands like this, and then draw it back towards your face, keeping the object that you're looking at inside that circle. Okay, you are left eye dominant. Therefore, Dan would want to hold the Slingshot in his right hand, drawing the bands back underneath his dominant left eye. Now that we've established that Dan is going to hold the Slingshot in his right hand and has left eye dominance, we got to figure out how we're going to actually hold the Slingshot. So depending on the model you've got, it can be held three different ways. So what I've got here is the Scout X Slingshot. I'm going to demonstrate what's called a hammer grip. This is a hammer grip, similar to holding a hammer. We also have what we call a pinch grip, where we reach around the Slingshot and fully pinch it. And finally, we have a thumb-supported grip, where we wrap our forefinger around the Slingshot and brace with our thumb. All three of these are appropriate for this Slingshot, with the pinch grip and the brace grip being preferred for the Scout Slingshot. Depending on the Slingshot you have, you might want to interface with it to figure out which grip is going to work best for you. Remember, there's three types of grip: hammer, pinch, and thumb support. Which one feels most natural to you, Dan?
The pinch.
All right, so Dan's got a pinch grip. So with the grip hand, we've got to remember one thing and really one thing only. We want the Slingshot to be held sideways, as such, with the prongs parallel to the target face. We don't want any movement forward or back. So let's demonstrate that, Dan. We've got our target down here. Great, see your top fork slightly canted. And it really helps to have somebody shoot a little video of you so you can see yourself and correct your mistakes accordingly. All right, so Dan has established he's most comfortable with a full pinch grip. That's great. He's going to hold that grip nice and static towards the target. Next, we want to orient our body correctly. So in doing so, we're going to orient ourselves 90 degrees to the target face. The target's over here. We're going to look this direction. In doing so, when we hold our hand out and sight down through our dominant eye, we created this right angle here. All right, so you've got to get your Slingshot set up and install the bands. We're going to recommend that you use the clay bands that came with your Slingshot, and we're going to recommend that you set it up over the top. We've already got this one set up, so refer to your owner's manual inside of your package for how to tune your bands and attach them to the Slingshot that you have in your hands. All right, so we're getting close. You've got a Slingshot that is set up, and I know it's really tempting to go shoot it, and you might have already, but loading the pouch and centering the ammo in the pouch is vital to downrange accuracy. So the release is everything with Slingshots. So let's just start with how we load the pouch. So you'll notice the pouch has a centering hole. This is where the ammo should sit. So go ahead and set that in there, Dan. All right, so it seems pretty intuitive to pinch the ammo, but we have a specific grip. So what I like to tell folks to do is give me a thumbs up. All right, so this is your trigger system. You're going to seat the pouch on top of this knuckle and pinch it with the thumb. And the key here is to keep your thumb perfectly straight. What we don't want to do is to grab it like this. Go ahead and give that a try. All right, that looks great. So one thing you want to notice is you can see here that Dan has got the ends of his pouches lined up. Now go ahead and scoot those out of the way there, Dan. Roll it off center. So we can see if you were to draw back in this orientation, one band is going to stretch more than the other, causing uneven retraction, and it's going to throw the shot. So taking the time to make sure that the ammo is centered in the pouch and you've got a secure grip on it is vital. So next up, we've got the ammo in the pouch. We want to shoot it, but how far do we draw back the bands? This is really important. We've got to figure out what our anchor point is. I like to use a repeatable anchor point, something on my face. I prefer to use my thumbnail in the corner of my mouth. If you draw back on your face, you may feel a more prominent feature such as your jawbone. Whatever that spot may be, just make sure you can repeat it. So let's go ahead and draw that back. All right, great. So that's Dan's repeatable anchor point. You're going to draw back to that point every time. In doing so, the bands are going to stretch the same rate every time. Throw the projectile down range at a similar rate of velocity, therefore hitting the same spot. So don't vary your draw length once you figure out what's comfortable. So now we're starting to put all of this together. We've figured out which hand to hold it in. Dan holds it in his right hand. He's got a pinch grip. He's figured out where his anchor point is, and he knows how to load the projectile. He's almost ready to shoot. Let's go back and check our form. So go ahead and draw out, Dan, as though you're prepared to shoot. We can see that he's 90 degrees to the target. His frame hand is solid, and he's got it back to his anchor. We want to change one thing here. We want you to lift your elbow just a touch. There you go. In doing so, you've got a straight line through the slingshot. So now Dan is aiming down the bands with his dominant left eye off the tip of the slingshot, which leads us to aiming. To aim the slingshot for your left and right, or your windage, you're simply going to line these bands up with your target. Let's take a look over his shoulder. All right, so we've got Dan lined up here. He's got good alignment. He's sighting down the bands. That's going to be his left and right, his windage. So Dan, you sight those, so you're sighting with your dominant eye right down the bands, and then use this fiber optic sight here on the Scout X and put it right on the target. That's your elevation. All right, so Dan's got a solid anchor hand. He's at his consistent anchor point. He is now sighting down those bands with his dominant eye. That's his windage. Then you're going to use the fiber optic sight or the tip of the slingshot, depending on what model you've got, and put that right on the target. At this point, this is where the magic happens. Go ahead and take a shot, Dan. All right, so one thing you really want to pay attention to in between shots is to make sure you get all the twists out of your bands. When you shoot, oftentimes the bands can become twisted. So Dan has now reset his bands, noticing that the tabs of where the slingshot bands were tied to the pouch are on the outside. That's the correct orientation. Okay, quick recap here. You're on your way to being a great slingshots marksman. Do it the same way every time. Perfect practice makes perfect. So Dan's using his brain, he's got his safety glasses on, and he's using a supplied lanyard, so safety is taken care of. He knows how to hold his slingshot. He's chosen a pinch grip. He's got his bands set up the way he likes them. So load them up, Dan, and let's see this process. We notice that Dan is standing 90 degrees to the target. We've got a consistent anchor point. This elbow can come down just a touch. Great. Hit that target, Dan. Nice shot. All right, so there you have it. Slingshots are pretty dang simple, but there are some techniques that you really want to pay attention to. So go back, watch this video several times, and like we said earlier, have somebody videotape you so you can watch yourself shooting. And even more importantly, if you can find other people to shoot with, go shoot with people that are better than you. That's the quickest way to learn. You're on your path to a lot of fun, and we can't wait to help you along your way.